Hello and welcome to the Week 10 Team Conti Sim Performance Track Guide for the NASCAR NextGen car. We are at the Michigan International Speedway, and we're going to take you for 25 laps around this 2-mile high-speed oval and walk you through how things evolve throughout a run, some common tips and tricks to be successful at Michigan, and even though we're not out in the pack of cars right now, some general ideas and some general basics for how to navigate the pack, the draft, third year, etc. So Michigan, on a surface level understanding, is a really straightforward, simple, intermediate drive, lots of on throttle time, heaps of grip, and it is multi-groove, so there's always somewhere you can put your car and make decent lap time. Where it gets tricky is extracting that last 2%, getting to the limit without stepping over it, and also in doing so, not hurting the tires any more than we have to. That's all critical to making really good stint speed or overall run speed by yourself in practices and in the rare instances in a race setting where you're actually by yourself and not cars around you. I say that's rare because the way the NASCAR NextGen car races on iRacing at this point is very pack heavy on big tracks like this one. Think back to Auto Club a couple weeks ago. Think back to a lot of the intermediates where there isn't a lot of off-throttle time, and we'll think about how much the draft played into effect, and it's going to be no different at Michigan, and arguably Michigan is the most draft-intensive track that we go to at this point. So what does that mean for you, and what does that mean for the racing? Well, no matter how good you are, how good your car is, it's going to be extremely difficult to get away, if not impossible early on. First 10, 15 laps of the run when everybody's cars are driving really well and setup doesn't play a massive factor in that speed that'll set you above the rest of the pack, there's nothing you can do to get away. All you can do is manage at that point, get track position, just do a good job of controlling what you can. And that is, again, not burning the tires off a bit more than you have to, and also not getting stuck in the bottom. If you're going to attempt to make a pass at Michigan this week, and you're going to do it on the bottom, you have to make sure there's a gap in front of the car that you're trying to clear, so that when you get to the exit of the corner, you can get back up in line. If you get stuck on the bottom and there's a train of cars coming around the top, you are going to lose more spots than you attempted to gain. You try to gain one, you'll lose 4 or 5, and then it's really difficult to get that track position back. And it's simply because there's more momentum to be generated up top, and then pair that with the massive amount of draft this car is affected by, and it's just hard to make the bottom work. Now, it is possible to pass the bottom, especially later in the run where setup makes a bit more of a difference, and some people fall off more than others, but just know that if you're going to try to make a pass, complete it or wait until there's an opportunity to better the chances of completing it by the time you get to the straightaway. Single car, back to that. So as you'll notice, I'm doing my run here on the bottom, and I'm going to stay here for the entirety of the 25 miles. It is critical that I absolutely 100% nail the line every time and get the left front on or as close to the yellow paint or both ends of the track as possible, because there's a ton of grip down there. And if you can get that left front pinned to the bottom, there's so much more rotation available to you. And right there I got on it so well that I actually bounced off for the bit and lost my rotation center off. But as you'll see, the lap time was still really good. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to session last lap. But anywho, bottom is the best way to make lap time by yourself. It's a little bit harder on the right rear, as opposed to probably running the more conventional middle or left sides of the first seam. But since again we're not off the gas very much and there's so much grip, that bottom is the way to go for speed by yourself. In the race, most people are going to run the first seam, and as the race goes on, the track opens in, that line is going to move higher and higher up. And as it does that, as the bottom gets more and more worn out, it's going to be more difficult to make the bottom work. So in prepping for this week's races, make sure that you acclimate yourself to all the lines. And what I mean by that is, so instead of going to the bottom, I'm going to go to the middle here. And I'm going see what kind of grip I have. And honestly, grip feels really good. Lost a little bit entry to center as expected, and I'm going to gain a little bit back on exit. About breaks even by the time I get to turn 3, if anything, maybe a little bit in the green. I'll do it again into 3 here, nice full lift, left side's in seam, and I am not going to gain that time back on exit. Middle of 3 and 4 is much less usable than the middle of 1 and 2. So the bottom in 3 and 4 is much more potent than it is in 1 and 2, which means that the bottom in 3 and 4 will be more useful in the race, but still it'll be just as at risk of getting greasy as the race goes on and vulnerable to people generating momentum on the top and training down the straightaway. But what am I doing here? So I'm fully lifting into both sets of corners early on here to manage some tire. That's going to remain constant for most of the run in turn 3 and 4. 1 and 2, there is enough grip to carry maintenance throttle into the entry, which means that I won't fully lift, keep some throttle engaged to carry that forward momentum. But that does definitely hurt the right front more because in doing so, you're tightening the car up. That is, you'll see right there with the maintenance throttle technique, I was over a half a tenth quicker and the full lift technique. Wouldn't want to do that every lap early on, but if you do have to make some lap time, or if you're trying to complete a pass and you need to get that extra speed that lap, then that is an option that's available to you. As the car loosens up in 1 and 2 later in the run, or at least it does in the baseline tester, baseline weather we used to test, there we go. The car did get looser in 1 and 2 as the run went on, and I found that keeping the maintenance throttle in it mitigated a lot of that looseness, sustained the momentum better center off, and was just quicker overall, not really at the expense of time that far in the front. So back to what I said earlier, Michigan surface seems very straightforward, but there are a lot of intricacies that go into generating lap time and keeping the tires happy level. So we're just crossing the lap 10 mark right here. Fastest lap of the run was at 39.09. Probably could have went a bit quicker than that, but again, tire management is always front of mind anywhere you go in iRacing. So backing off that front of run pace, which means that my lap 10 was only about a tenth slower than my hot lap on this run. So not a whole lot of fall off early. That will accelerate as we approach 20 and then 25. We should be looking at a second or so with fall off for that 39th lap. Still really good grip on both ends, a little bit edgy on throttle center off of 3 and 4, especially as I cross the first seam, and that's going to happen in the same exact way off of 2. When you cross that seam at the right rear as you're tracking out on exit, it does tend to get a little bit loose, but as long as you know that it's there, you'll be just fine. And keep it nice and low right there. Give yourself a little bit of breathing room down the straightaway so the wall arrow doesn't pull the car back. As I talked about before, we've gone to places like Indy and Pocono. It's maybe worth 102 on a straightaway, which isn't a whole lot, but definitely critical for qualifying, and we need every little bit of pace we can get when we're in competitive fields, so that might help you just this bit. Nice wide entry right here. Slow, progressive lift off the throttle. It's not a light switch lift here because we're not using any brake. So I don't need to get off the gas quickly. I want to carry lots of throttle through my deceleration zone. So the top end of the pedal is a slow lift right there, and then bottom end is a quick lift. I generate that rotation as I snap the throttle out of it, and then I commit to throttle as quickly as I can once I have enough, really at this point, rear grip to do so. Caution light, I guess, is a good marker. I think I'm turning in a little bit after that. People ask me, where are you turning in, and where are you lifting, where are you braking? And I typically have to go back and watch my replay because I don't really look for markers. I know for a lot of you that are watching, you're probably at a point in your sim racing ventures that you are using reference points and brake markers and things to track, and that's perfectly fine, no judgment there. But as you get really comfortable with these tracks, and as you go to them a million times like I have, it comes with time. You just kind of have a feel where to turn in. With that being said, caution light in the 1 is probably a good marker to turn in just at or after it. And then we're looking at turn 3 to see if there's something on the wall or on the track to help us know when to turn in there. Because it is very easy to get lost in the 3. And if you widen out that entry too much and you try to cross under that first seam too late, you'll really unload the car into the right rear and get loose. And definitely turning in way before the caution light in the 3. Getting down to that bottom, along that white line. Just get that throttle fed back into it. A little counter steer right there to settle the rear, and then out to the wall with the caution light again. Again, I talked about how it was critical to check out different lines in our single car testing, so now we're going to go for the conventional first seam. Little edgy as it lands right there. I can feel the car compress, but fantastic drive off and definitely quicker than the bottom was the left. We'll go back to the bottom in 3 and 4 because that should still be the way to go. Just a quick lift, drive it in deep to keep that momentum in it. Nice and straight over the first seam. Watch for tracking out wide like that. It really seems to upset the rear more than keeping it tight and pinched. That's still a good lap, nevertheless. About 3/4 of a tenth quicker. Now we'll try to go 1 lane higher. I should be able to keep more throttle in it as long as I don't get too loose. It's a bit edgy up here, but yeah, pretty good. Not going to gain all that time back, but if I had to do that in a race, I would probably be able to fend off the cars behind me because I ran higher and had more momentum generated from doing so. That's a good defensive move right there, is to run up the lane and force them to go to the bottom. And then if they can't clear you, or if they can't get back in behind you, they're going to get trained by the cars that fill the hole and push you down the next straightaway. So definitely good to get acquainted with that top groove. I'll go 1 groove higher here. This is probably going to be way too high and not be very good. Actually, better than I thought. Honestly, still slower than the groove below it, but some good momentum up off. Really felt nice and gripped up too. You'll notice I'm in 4th gear. I probably should have talked about that way sooner than lap 18, so apologies there. But I am in 4th gear by myself. I would recommend trying 5th gear when you're in the draft because you're going to be going so much faster. It's going to be so much more pull. 5th gear might be a little bit better in the draft just for overall speed, a little bit easier on the right rear tire, and then definitely better fuel mileage wise because you're turning significantly less on the end. Back to the bottom right there, gained entry to center, lose it all plus some on exit. So very interesting how even with a clean track and only 1 car on it, I can still make those upper grooves work even before lap 20. Good and bad, because that means that those upper grooves are going to be really tough to beat in the race, and like I said before, that's going to make NASCAR very, very difficult. So make sure you qualify well and manage the race, keep track position, don't fall back. Let's go back up to this upper groove again. I don't want to go to the wall because I know it's not good. Don't want to try that. I'll drop the crash. Really good momentum off of 2 right there. I'm going to try the first seam. 3, haven't really experimented here yet. This is going to be greasy, I'm sure. Maybe you see that I cannot get back to the gas. Can't even generate any momentum up off the corner because I slipped the rear so bad. So that wasn't very good. Go back to the first seam here. It should be the quickest line right now. Lots of maintenance throttle into the entry with a quick snap at the bottom of the pedal to full lift, and then we're right back on it. Should wash out to be just a bit quicker in the 3. And I'll go to whatever this is, route 4, 5. Second seam for the fence. This is where you would run to get your qualifying lap started. Definitely better than the first seam, but still not better than bottom. Or so I don't think. But let's find out this next thing. Go back to the bottom here. Really get that thing pinned to the yellow line, try to drive up off nice and straight, don't slide that right rear. You can see right there, bottom is now quicker than any of the other grooves in 1 and 2, so that's moved around a bit as well. Quick lift in 3. Feed, throttle back into it, get the left front close to that yellow line, and you have massive corner right there. A little counter steer, but still really good. It seems like bottom is best again. We'll test that in 1 and 2. I'll go back to the first scene and see what the tractor says. No full lift, just maintenance throttle. Whoa, and loose. Yep. As soon as it landed, just did not have enough right rear to sustain. That'll be different in the race. We have dirty air in the draft and everything. It should be less edgy. Got a single car. Obviously, there we go. Up on the 4, a little loose again. Just pushing at this point to run. Tire management's over. 2 laps to go. Nice wide entry. Maintenance throttle, all maintenance throttle right there, no full lift. Just trying to feed it throttle. Woo-hoo-hoo. And right there, that's what I was talking about. You get over that seam with too much angle and too much throttle and it will bite you. So we're going to pretend like that didn't happen. And I'm going to reset myself here and try to do better this last lap of the run. That was scary. Alright, so here we go. Still going to be a slow lift at the top of the pedal, but then quick lift at the bottom. Let's let the car settle, get a turn. There we go. Just the bottom a little bit, but I'm going to come up off much straighter, much lower. There we go. So I probably lost a tenth or so entry to center, but since I didn't die off of 2, definitely got a real good at it. Down to 3. Throttle. Nice and easy over the seam, a much nicer lap overall. I'll do 1 more lap here since 24 is sort of a disaster. Alright, into 1. Full lift. Back on it. There we go. Find that yellow line. Nice and straight on exit. Beautiful. Better than the lap before for sure. Although it says it's slower, it's still a lap later. Got even down the back. Nail 3 and 4. Got it in. To the bottom. There we go. Watch that slip. Bring it down to the grass. And complete 26 laps at a 40.01. So right at about a second fall off, like I mentioned at the beginning of the run. So that is a 25-lap run around Michigan. I feel like I went over as much as I can driving a car around here by myself. It will definitely be a totally different animal when you've got, well, depending on if you're an A-Open or NIS, 20 to 30 plus cars around you. But like I said, key things to look for: don't get stuck in the bottom, don't burn your right rear tire off, and stay in the draft. Pit with other cars, race with teammates, communicate, but do not lose the draft. You have to treat this as like a pseudo super speedway, if you get what I mean. Like, you have to have help. You can't do it by yourself. I've had 2 Coke races here in the NextGen era, and I haven't had as much help as others at the end of the races. And even though I feel like we've had fantastic cars here in the past, when you have no help and get ganged up on, there's not much you can do. Very easy to get wrecked, as I know all too well from the last couple of years here. So watch the wrecks. Again, it's like a pseudo super speedway, so it's going to happen. But to my point earlier, qualify well, maintain your track position, stay up front, and the rest should take care of itself for you. Other than that, that's all I've got. Week 10 is here. We're almost to the end of Season 3. I appreciate you all for watching, subscribing to TCSP, or just being onlookers. I thank you all. If you haven't done so already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out a bunch. Thank you all again, and we will see you next week in Week 11. Take care.